I'm Glenda, 28 years old, raised in a middle-class home in Denver, Colorado. Growing up, I was essentially my parents' unpaid maid while they groomed my brother for success. They dismissed my passion for design as worthless, but they couldn't have been more wrong. Last month, a CEO worth millions stood up at an industry conference and praised my work after I won a $5 million contract, right in front of my stunned parents. Let me know where you're watching from, hit that like and subscribe button, and stick around to see how I went from scrubbing floors to running my own company. My childhood home in Denver looked perfect from the outside, a two-story colonial with a manicured lawn in a respectable neighborhood. But inside those walls, I lived a very different reality from what neighbors saw. My father, Jack, worked as a mid-level manager at Colorado Insurance Partners, and my mother, Martha, taught English at the local high school. They were obsessed with appearances and maintaining what they called standards. Those standards apparently included turning their daughter into a live-in maid. By age 8, I was assigned daily chores that went far beyond what my friends were expected to do. I washed dishes, vacuumed carpets, and dusted furniture. By 10, I was doing laundry and helping prepare meals. By 12, I was handling most of the household cleaning entirely on my own. "A woman needs to know how to maintain a proper home," my mother would say whenever I complained about the workload. My father would simply add, "Consider yourself lucky we're teaching you valuable life skills." Meanwhile, my younger brother Adam, just 2 years behind me, never lifted a finger around the house. He was encouraged to join sports teams, hang out with friends, and focus on his studies. When I asked why Adam didn't have chores too, my mother would say, "He needs to focus on building his future. Boys need different skills." The double standard was painfully obvious, but any protest on my part was met with punishment, usually in the form of even more chores. So I learned to keep my head down and do what was expected. My one escape came when I was 13. During a school supply shopping trip, I convinced my mother to buy me a sketchbook and some colored pencils by claiming they were required for an art class. That night, after finishing my chores and homework, I stayed up late and discovered my passion for drawing and design. In the privacy of my bedroom with the door closed and the sounds of a running fan to mask any noise I would create, logos, fashion designs, and elaborate illustrations. Something about bringing visual ideas to life on paper made all the drudgery of my daily existence bearable. For those precious stolen hours, I wasn't a maid. I was a creator. When I was 14, my art teacher entered one of my designs in a regional student competition without telling me. To everyone's surprise except mine, I won first place. The school called my parents to invite them to the award ceremony. "Art isn't going to pay the bills," my father said when I excitedly showed him the invitation. "We have parent-teacher conferences that night anyway." They didn't go, and I accepted my award alone, pretending not to notice the empty seats I'd reserved for them. But something changed in me that night. As I held that small trophy, I realized that others valued what I could create, even if my parents never would. That night planted the first real seed of determination in me. If my parents couldn't see my worth, I would find people who could. High school should have been a time of growth, friendship, and discovery. For me, it was just more of the same, but with higher stakes and growing resentment. My daily routine was brutal. I'd wake up at 5 a.m. to prepare breakfast for everyone, pack lunches, and start a load of laundry before getting ready for school. After classes, I'd rush home to clean, start dinner preparations, and finish laundry before diving into homework. Weekends were even worse. Deep cleaning the entire house yard work, when seasons required it, and meal prep for the week ahead. Despite this workload, I maintained straight A's. Not because my parents valued my education, but because anything less would have been seen as a failure of time management and resulted in restrictions on the little free time I had. My only genuine ally during this time was Ms. Wilson, my art teacher. She noticed how I would sketch designs in the margins of my notebooks and how I lingered after class to look at design magazines. "You have a real gift, Glenda," she told me one day. "You should be developing it." When I explained that I had no time and no access to a computer for digital design, she offered me a lifeline. I could use the computer lab during lunch periods to learn graphic design software. She even gave me her own lunch hour to supervise and teach me the basics. Those lunch periods became sacred time. I'd quickly eat a sandwich while the software loaded, then dive into learning Photoshop and Illustrator. Ms. Wilson would offer guidance while grading papers at a nearby desk. Under her mentorship, my skills grew rapidly. At home, my resentment toward my parents deepened as I began to understand just how abnormal my situation was. The breaking point came on my 17th birthday. My parents actually allowed me to invite 2 friends over for a small celebration, the first time I'd been permitted to have friends at our house in years. I spent days cleaning and preparing, excited for this rare social opportunity. On the night of my birthday, my mother handed me an apron as my friends arrived. "Since you're the hostess, you'll be serving dinner," she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "And clean up afterward, of course." I watched in humiliation as my friends exchanged uncomfortable glances while I served them cake I'd baked myself. After they left, I spent 2 hours cleaning while my parents watched TV in the living room. Just 6 months later, they hired caterers for Adam's 16th birthday party and invited 15 of his friends. I was assigned to help the caterers in the kitchen. One of my friends from my birthday dinner, Jasmine, saw what was happening and followed me to the kitchen. "This isn't right, Glenda," she whispered as I loaded dishwashing detergent. "The way they treat you, it's not normal." Jasmine became my closest friend after that. Her family was warm and supportive, and spending time at her house gave me glimpses of what a healthy family looked like. Her parents treated her and her siblings with respect and encouraged their interests and ambitions. With Jasmine's encouragement and Ms. Wilson's support, I made a secret plan I would apply to colleges without my parents knowing. Ms. Wilson helped me research schools with strong graphic design programs and worked with me on portfolio pieces. By senior year, I had developed a solid application portfolio. With Ms. Wilson's recommendation, I secured a partial scholarship to State University's design program located about 3 hours away, far enough to escape but close enough to be manageable. 1 month before graduation, with my acceptance letter hidden in my backpack, I finally gathered the courage to tell my parents. The kitchen fell silent after I announced my college plans. My father's face darkened while my mother's lips pressed into a thin line. "Absolutely not," my father finally said. "If you want to waste money on college, you can attend community college and live at home. We're not paying for you to go play artist 3 hours away." "I have a scholarship," I explained, "and I'll work part-time to cover the rest." "Do you have any idea how selfish you're being?" my mother asked. "Who's going to take care of the house your brother will be starting his senior year and needs to focus on his future?" That's when it hit me. They were never going to see me as anything more than unpaid help. I was a utility, not a daughter with dreams and aspirations. "I'm going," I said quietly. "I've already accepted." My father's ultimatum was simple: stay home and commute to community college or lose their support entirely. No money, no car, no safety net. When I stood firm, he pointed to the door and said, "Then you can start making it on your own right now." I had anticipated this reaction and had been secretly saving. Every birthday check from relatives, every dollar earned from the occasional freelance design job for classmates and local businesses, all squirreled away in a lockbox hidden in my closet. It wasn't much, just over $500, but it was something. The night before I left, Adam slipped into my room. At 16, he was starting to recognize the dysfunction in our family. "I'm sorry," he whispered, handing me an envelope. Inside was $340, all his savings from his part-time job at the mall. "You shouldn't have to do this alone." I tried to refuse, but he insisted. "You never got to be a kid because you were taking care of me. Let me help you for once." Leaving the next morning was surreal. I packed everything I truly needed into 2 suitcases and a backpack. My parents watched coldly from the living room as I walked out, not even offering a goodbye. College life hit me like a tidal wave. I'd secured the cheapest housing option, a tiny apartment shared with 3 other students. The partial scholarship covered about 60% of my tuition, but that left a significant amount I needed to earn. Financial aid was complicated because my parents refused to complete the necessary forms despite the fact they weren't contributing a penny. I worked 3 part-time jobs, mornings at a coffee shop near campus, evenings at the library, and weekends doing data entry for an insurance office. Between work and classes, I averaged 4 to 5 hours of sleep per night. My meals consisted mainly of ramen noodles and whatever free food I could find at campus events. Despite these challenges, I thrived academically. Design classes felt like breathing fresh air after years of suffocation. For the first time, my creativity wasn't something to hide, but something to cultivate and celebrate. In my second semester, I met Professor Davis, who would become my most important mentor. He noticed me falling asleep during his morning lecture, despite my desperate efforts to stay awake. Instead of reprimanding me, he asked me to stay after class. When I explained my situation, he nodded thoughtfully. "Your work shows remarkable talent, Glenda. You shouldn't have to kill yourself just to get an education." Professor Davis connected me with small paid internships and design opportunities that allowed me to reduce my other work hours while gaining relevant experience. He also helped me navigate scholarship applications specifically for design students securing additional financial support. By junior year, I had built a modest portfolio and was beginning to make a name for myself in the department. The breakthrough came when I won the university's prestigious design competition, which included a cash prize and feature in a local newspaper. Adam secretly sent me a clipping of the article. In his note, he mentioned he'd tried to show it to our parents, but they'd refused to look at it. 3 years had passed, and they still refused any contact with me. When graduation day arrived, I walked across the stage with honors. Looking out at the audience, I saw empty seats where family should have been. But the sting was lessened by the enthusiastic cheers from Jasmine and her parents, who had driven 3 hours to support me. Professor Davis and several classmates had also come to celebrate. After the ceremony, Jasmine's mother hugged me tight. "We're so proud of you," she whispered. In that moment, I realized family didn't have to be defined by blood. Armed with my degree and a growing portfolio, I landed an entry-level position at Horizon Design, a small but reputable agency in the city. My starting salary wasn't impressive, but it was enough to rent a studio apartment in a safer neighborhood and finally stop working multiple jobs. I threw myself into work with the same intensity I'd applied to everything else in my life. While other new hires left precisely at 5 p.m., I stayed late perfecting projects and learning new skills. My supervisor noticed, and within 6 months, I was given more responsibility and creative freedom. Throughout this time, I made periodic attempts to reconnect with my parents. I sent birthday and Christmas cards, graduation announcements, and even my new address and phone number. Most went unanswered, though occasionally my mother would send a terse one-line reply, usually pointing out some perceived failure or expressing disappointment in my choices. Adam, now in college himself, kept in touch through secret calls and texts. He updated me on family news and confided that our parents constantly bragged about his average achievements while never mentioning my existence to extended family or friends. Dad got him a job at the insurance company, Adam told me during one call, referring to our cousin. He told everyone at Thanksgiving how he's always supporting family, and I nearly choked on my turkey. The most painful rejection came during my second Christmas after graduation. I had saved enough for a plane ticket home and didn't announce my visit, hoping the holiday spirit might soften their stance. I stood on their doorstep with a small bag of carefully chosen gifts, only to watch through the window as my father saw me, made eye contact, and deliberately turned away. No one answered the doorbell. I left the gifts on the porch and spent Christmas alone in an airport hotel before flying back the next morning. That night I made a decision to stop pursuing a relationship they clearly didn't want. I would focus entirely on building my career and creating a life they couldn't diminish. At work, I developed a distinctive design style that clients increasingly requested by name. My aesthetic combined clean professional elements with unexpected creative touches that made brands memorable. After successfully completing several high-profile projects, I was promoted to senior designer. Recognizing I needed business knowledge to advance further, I enrolled in night classes for business management at a local community college. The courses were exhausting after full days at work, but they gave me crucial insights into the business side of creative industries. During a networking event for one of these classes, I met Sofia Martinez, the founder of a successful marketing consultancy. We connected immediately over shared experiences as women in business. "You have something special," she told me after seeing samples of my work. "Have you considered going independent? You could make twice what agencies pay you." The idea was simultaneously terrifying and exhilarating. Sophia became both friend and informal advisor, helping me understand the realities of running a business and encouraging me to believe in my abilities. As my confidence grew professionally, the contrast with my family situation became increasingly painful. I was approaching my 25th birthday and found myself in what felt like a quarter-life crisis. While colleagues complained about overbearing parents who called too often, I hadn't heard my mother's voice in years. During a particularly low moment, I called Adam. "Sometimes I wonder if there's something fundamentally unlovable about me," I confessed. "Glenda, stop," he said firmly. "The problem was never you. Normal parents don't throw away their child because she wants an education. Normal parents are proud when their kid succeeds." His words were a turning point. I realized I'd been carrying the weight of their rejection as if it reflected my worth. It was time to put that burden down and fully embrace the future I was building for myself. My 26th birthday marked the beginning of a new chapter. After 3 years at Horizon Design and countless nights researching and planning, I submitted my resignation and launched Glenda Stevens Design. Sophia helped me create a business plan that was both ambitious and realistic. With her recommendation, I secured a small business loan despite my limited credit history, just enough to purchase essential equipment and cover 3 months of basic expenses. To save on costs, I converted half of my small apartment into a home office. My dining table became my desk, and I invested in professional design software and a high-quality computer. Business cards and a simple website completed my initial setup. The first month was terrifying. I'd walk to a nearby cafe each morning just to be around people nursing a single coffee for hours while sending emails to potential clients. Many days ended without a single response, and I'd return to my empty apartment questioning my decision. The breakthrough came through Professor Davis, who recommended me to a former student now working at a mid-sized pharmaceutical company looking to rebrand their patient education materials. The project budget wasn't large, but it was enough to buy me another month. I worked around the clock to exceed their expectations, developing not just the requested materials, but offering additional design options that addressed problems they hadn't even articulated. When the marketing director called to express his amazement at the quality and thoroughness of my work, I finally allowed myself to believe this might actually succeed. "We've worked with agencies charging 10 times more that delivered half the quality," he said. "Who else is on your team?" "Just me," I admitted, worried this might diminish his impression. Instead, he was even more impressed and immediately referred me to 2 colleague companies. Suddenly, I had enough work to fill my calendar for the next 2 months. As word spread about my work ethic and creative solutions, my client list grew steadily. My distinctive approach to design, what one client called professionally unexpected, began gaining recognition in local business circles. 6 months after launching, I hired my first employee, Tara, a recent design graduate who reminded me of myself a few years earlier. By month 8, we had outgrown my apartment and moved into a small but proper office space. Developing my company's brand identity was an interesting challenge. After helping so many businesses define their visual presence, I needed to articulate my own. I created a logo and visual system that embodied what I wanted my company to represent: creative solutions with professional execution, unexpected approaches that delivered reliable results. The website I designed showcased not just our work, but our process, giving potential clients insight into how we approach design challenges. This transparency became a key differentiator for us in a market where many agencies treated their methods as mysterious black boxes. As projects grew in size and complexity, I learned to negotiate contracts that properly valued our work. Early on, I'd undercharged significantly, afraid of losing opportunities. With growing confidence in Sophia's coaching, I began setting prices that reflected our true worth. Networking became a crucial part of growing the business. I joined several entrepreneur groups and women in business organizations, gradually building relationships with other business owners and potential clients. At one such event, I met Victoria Winters, the CEO of Innovate Tech, a company valued at over $800 million. Victoria had a reputation for mentoring women entrepreneurs, and to my surprise, she took an interest in my business after seeing some of our work on a mutual client's materials. "You're thinking too small," she told me over coffee at our third meeting. "Your design sensibility could work at a much larger scale. You're ready for bigger clients and bigger projects." With Victoria's informal mentorship, I began targeting larger opportunities and positioning my growing company for more substantial contracts. Despite these professional strides, my parents remained stubbornly absent from my life. I still sent them my new business cards and office address when we moved, but never received any acknowledgement. Adam kept me updated on family news, including his own graduation from college. My parents threw an extravagant party for him, inviting extended family and friends to celebrate. I wasn't invited, of course, though Adam showed me photos. Seeing my parents beaming with pride over my brother while continuing to ignore my existence stung, but the pain was duller now, overshadowed by my growing success and the supportive relationships I'd built. The email from National Retail Group appeared in my inbox on a Tuesday morning. They were seeking proposals for a complete rebranding across their 200 stores and online presence, a contract worth approximately $5 million over 2 years. Under normal circumstances, a company our size wouldn't even be considered for such a massive project. But Victoria had mentioned us to their CMO after seeing our work for one of their smaller subsidiaries. "They're including you as a courtesy to me," Victoria warned when I called to thank her. "Don't expect anything, but don't waste the opportunity either." I assembled a team that included Tara, our 2 other full-time designers, and 3 trusted contractors. For 2 weeks, we researched everything about National Retail Group, their history, current market position, competitors, customer demographics, and future goals. We identified key weaknesses in their existing brand identity and developed a comprehensive strategy to address them. Our approach was bold, perhaps too bold, I worried. While other agencies would likely play it safe with minor evolutionary changes to their existing identity, we were proposing a revolutionary shift that would position them as innovators in a traditional retail space. Against the odds, we were selected as one of 5 finalists from over 30 submissions. The final presentation would be in front of their executive team, and we had 3 weeks to prepare. Those weeks were a blur of refinements, practice presentations, and contingency planning. The night before our presentation, disaster struck. My computer crashed, corrupting several key files for our presentation. Despite having backups, reconstructing everything perfectly would take hours we didn't have. My team rallied around me. We ordered pizza, put on strong coffee, and worked through the night rebuilding the presentation. By 6 a.m., we had recreated everything and even improved several sections in the process. Exhausted but determined, we arrived at National Retail Group's headquarters an hour early to set up. As I checked in at reception, I froze at the sight of a familiar face in the waiting area, my father. He was older, with more gray hair than I remembered, but unmistakable. He was deep in conversation with 2 colleagues, not yet noticing me. From their visitor badges, I realized the impossible. My father's insurance company had apparently diversified into corporate communications and was also bidding on the contract. When he finally looked up and saw me, his expression shifted from shock to something like contempt. He excused himself from his colleagues and walked over. "Playing with your little drawings again?" he asked, his voice low but cutting. 5 years earlier, such a comment would have devastated me. Now it merely revealed how little he understood about what I did and who I'd become. "Good luck with your presentation, Jack," I replied, using his first name deliberately. Then I turned back to my team, who were watching the exchange with confusion. Despite the emotional ambush, I delivered our presentation with confidence, fielding difficult questions with thoughtful, prepared responses. My team performed flawlessly, each person handling their portion of the presentation with professionalism and enthusiasm. The week of waiting that followed was excruciating. When my phone finally rang with National Retail Group's number, my hand trembled as I answered. "We've narrowed it down to 2 finalists," the CMO explained. "We'd like both teams to present once more at the National Retail Conference next month. The presentations will be public with an expanded panel of executives making the final decision." When he named the other finalist, Bradford Communications, my father's company, I nearly dropped the phone. Somehow the universe had engineered a public showdown between the daughter who wasn't good enough and the parents who had discarded her. The stakes couldn't have been higher. This wasn't just about a contract anymore. It was about vindicating every choice I'd made since walking out their door 5 years ago. The National Retail Conference was held in a grand hotel ballroom filled with industry leaders, marketing executives, and design professionals. As my team and I set up at our designated area, I scanned the room nervously. The front row was reserved for National Retail Group executives, and among them sat my parents. My mother was studying the program pointedly, not looking in my direction. My father was checking his phone, his face set in the same stern expression I remembered from childhood. Neither acknowledged me, though they must have known I'd seen them. From across the room, I spotted several of my former colleagues from Horizon Design who had come to support me. Their presence was a welcome reminder that I wasn't alone. Just before the presentations began, Victoria Winters slipped into a seat in the second row. She gave me a subtle thumbs up when our eyes met. Her presence was unexpected. She must have rearranged her schedule to be here. The Bradford Communications team presented first. My father led the presentation outlining a safe conventional approach to National Retail Group's rebranding. Their concepts were professional but predictable, exactly what you'd expect from a traditional corporate communications firm. When our turn came, I stepped to the podium with a calm confidence that surprised even me. The years of preparation, not just the weeks working on this proposal, but the years of developing my skills despite every obstacle, had led to this moment. "Retail isn't just changing," I began. "It's being revolutionized. Your customers don't just want products. They want experiences that speak to who they are and who they aspire to be." For the next 20 minutes, my team and I presented our vision for transforming National Retail Group from a traditional retailer into an experiential brand that connected emotionally with consumers across physical and digital spaces. Our designs were bold, but strategically sound innovative, yet immediately implementable. During the Q&A session, the CEO of National Retail Group asked both teams the same challenging question: "Why should we trust you with the future of our brand?" My father's answer was about Bradford's 30 years of experience and their roster of Fortune 500 clients. Mine was different. "Because we see what your brand can become, not just what it has been," I said. "We bring fresh perspective combined with rigorous execution. We're hungry to prove ourselves on this scale, which means you'll get our absolute best work on every deliverable, not just the initial pitch." After a brief deliberation, the CEO returned to the podium. The room fell silent. "Both teams presented strong concepts," he began. "But one team showed us not just who we are, but who we could be." He paused, glancing at his fellow executives who nodded in agreement. "We're pleased to award the $5 million rebranding contract to Glenda Stevens Design." The applause was immediate and enthusiastic. My team erupted in cheers, hugging each other and me. Through tears of joy, I saw my parents' stunned expressions. For once, they were speechless. As the applause died down, Victoria Winters stood up. She hadn't been scheduled to speak, but as an industry leader, she commanded immediate respect. "I'd like to say something," she said, her voice carrying across the ballroom. "What we just witnessed was extraordinary, but even more extraordinary is the journey Glenda Stevens has taken to reach this point." The room quieted as Victoria continued. 5 years ago, Glenda was a new graduate with nothing but talent and determination. She built her company from a one-person operation in her apartment to the innovative firm we see today. Her work has transformed how dozens of companies connect with their customers, and now National Retail Group will benefit from that same vision. I blinked back tears as Victoria concluded, in an industry often dominated by established players, Glenda represents the value of fresh thinking and unstoppable persistence. This is what leadership in design looks like. The second round of applause was even more enthusiastic than the first. Through the crowd, I could see my parents gathering their materials, their faces tight with what might have been anger or embarrassment. As they headed for the exit, my father glanced back at me. For a fleeting moment, I thought I saw something like regret in his eyes before he turned away. At the reception that followed, I was surrounded by well-wishers and potential clients. Industry leaders who had never given me the time of day were suddenly eager to discuss collaboration opportunities. Through it all, I maintained my composure, though. Inside, I was still processing the magnitude of what had happened. Eventually, I spotted my parents hovering at the edge of a group where I was speaking. When the conversation ended, they approached awkwardly. "That was quite impressive," my mother said stiffly, as if complimenting a stranger's child. "You've done well for yourself. We always knew you had potential," my father added, rewarding history before my eyes. "Thank you," I replied simply. "But you didn't know. You never gave me the chance to show you." Before they could respond, I felt a hand on my shoulder. It was Adam, who had slipped into the conference without my knowledge. "Sorry I'm late," he said, hugging me tightly. Traffic was a nightmare, but I caught the announcement. "Glenda, I'm so proud of you." Our parents stood frozen, clearly not expecting to see both their children together. "Adam," my mother began, "what are you doing here?" "Supporting my sister," he said simply, "like family should." As our parents stammered through uncomfortable small talk, Victoria approached and smoothly extracted me to introduce me to several potential clients. The contrast between the warmth of these new connections and the cold formality of my parents was striking. In the months that followed, the National Retail Group contract transformed my business. We moved to larger offices and hired additional staff to handle the increased workload. Adam, who had studied marketing in college, joined the company to head our client relations department. My parents made awkward attempts at reconciliation, sending birthday cards inviting me to holiday gatherings, even stopping by the office once with a houseplant as a congratulations gift. I maintained polite but firm boundaries, unwilling to pretend the past hadn't happened, but also not interested in nursing bitterness. Therapy helped me process the complicated emotions around my family. I learned that forgiveness didn't mean forgetting or excusing their behavior, but rather releasing its power over my present and future happiness. As my company grew, I was determined to create a workplace culture that stood in stark contrast to my upbringing. We emphasized collaboration over competition, celebrated each team member's contributions, and structured workloads to allow for genuine work-life balance. With some of the profits from the National Retail Group contract, I established a scholarship for young designers from challenging backgrounds, particularly those who lacked family support. The first recipient was a talented young woman whose parents had kicked her out when she came out as gay. Looking back on my journey from treated like a maid to running a successful design company, I realized that true success encompassed more than professional achievements. It included healing from past wounds, building healthy relationships, and creating opportunities for others. The family that had failed me couldn't be replaced, but I had created something perhaps more valuable. A chosen family of friends, colleagues, and mentors who supported me not out of obligation, but out of genuine care and respect. What about you? Have you ever had to prove your worth to people who should have believed in you from the start, or created your own support system? When your biological family fell short, share your experiences in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more journeys of resilience and transformation. Remember, sometimes the family you create is more powerful than the one you were born into. Thank you for listening, and never forget that your worth isn't determined by those who fail to see it.